Hello everybody, my name is Alex and you're watching Render Courses. In this video I'll show you how to set up beautiful and very realistic daylighting. Daylighting is actually the most common lighting option, and it's also the easiest in terms of setting it up. So I've prepared these references for us to use today, and we did this project for a client of ours a few years back. And I think it looks pretty interesting. There's these narrow passageways between buildings. And setting up lighting in a scene like this is harder than in a scene with just one single building. I think it's better to show you how to set up lighting in a scene with a complex architecture like this. So, as for references, in this case I went to Art Gallery and picked some projects with similar configurations and number of floors. Here we can also see balconies and a patio. We're going to examine all of this. We have daylighting. It's probably shortly after noon, I suppose. The light falls at about 45 degrees to the ground. The light is rather neutral, but it's not cold. It's not too warm either. And we also have these delicate shadows here. And I'm going to say this again. Be sure to use references when setting up lighting. A reference before your eyes gives you a clear understanding of what you want to achieve. It will save you a lot of time and effort. Take note that sunlight here also falls at about 45 degrees to the ground and 90 degrees to the camera. All of our references are kind of like that. Plus, I've found this scene with incorrect lighting. Here the sun is shining from behind the viewer, which makes the image look flat. And this is precisely what I was talking about in the previous video. All right, so let's get started with lighting. So first of all, we need to do some preparation work in our scene. To set up lighting fast and hassle-free, you need to group geometry into layers. So these are layers for our current scene. Here they are. Here we have layers with trees. We have some thujas over here, some small details, some grass, bushes, small bushes, flowers, interiors, and people. So for starters, let's say grass, for example. And it doesn't directly affect lighting, actually. But the thing is about grass is that, especially lots of scatter grass, can slow down your render time quite a bit. So that's why I recommend you hide these things. And actually, should hide everything but geometry and trees. Let's hide our interiors, bushes and flowers. And let's just leave buildings and trees, and also the general plan. And we need trees to obtain realistic shadows. That's the thing. So suppose you've set up lighting in your scene, but when you add trees, that kind of drastically changes your lighting. Trees produce lots of shadows. That's a common knowledge. And your image looks different. It just makes your image look very different. That's why you should always leave trees in your scene so you know where you're going. All right, so trees help you create the desired light shadow effect and balance. So I hope that makes sense. Let's hide all of those things, tears and all of that. And now it will be easier for us to set up lighting for sure. So the next thing we need to do is some presetting. So we go to render setup and switch to single map. So color is white. And next we're gonna fill our scene with clay material. We're gonna use Corona Physical MTL for that. So we check MTL override here, then click none and select Corona Physical MTL. If you're using an older version of Corona, that'll be Corona MTL. If you're using V-Ray, that'll be V-Ray MTL. So V-Ray has the same material override option. Right, so we drag Corona Physical MTL to the override slot. There we go. Let's switch it to one of the cameras. This one, for example. And let's go ahead and start interactive to get it going. We're already getting something, admittedly. Still raw. And this scene has plenty of windows, including some shopping windows, you can tell. So my advice is to exclude glass from the override command, especially if your project has lots of objects and lots of glass, such as, things like office buildings, shops, and so on. When you add lighting, these glass elements will produce glares, and that's why we need to exclude glass from our scene for now. So we click preserve and select preserve glass materials. But the thing is about Corona is that it can't always identify glass, especially when glass materials are complex. So that's why we need to exclude those glasses manually. And so we select a glass object in this manner and have all glass elements attached into a single mesh. There we go. Object excluded, and all glass elements are excluded. So this is the presetting that we need to do. Also, we need to go to the Performance tab now and uncheck Fast Preview Denoise. And this will remove excess denoise to make our image look less sterile and more real. And take a note that our interactive render is running pretty fast because we've hidden all unwanted objects such as bushes, grass, and other interior elements. So that will save us time on lighting setup. So first I'm going to show you how to set up lighting manually by using HDRI, and then we'll see how to do lighting setup fast by using scripts. But first of all, we'll start with HDRI. I already have HDRI library. The links to the website with HDRI maps will be in the description to this video. Let's find out how HDRI maps work and how to use them. All right, so first things first, let's open our material editor. And you can press M on your keyboard or click material editor icon in the menu, doesn't matter. Next, let's create a new view. And let's go ahead and pick an HDRI map. I usually prefer Skyscom or 3D Collective. Let's go with 3D Collective 22. Let's go ahead and pick this map and drag it to our material editor. And it's assigned as a regular bitmap, which means it no longer has some of those basic settings that we need. And that's why it's best to use Corona bitmap. So we drag it here. Then we go to the HDRI map library. Let's pick this one. All right, Here it is, Corona bitmap. And I just wanted to show you the difference between regular bitmap and the Corona bitmap. So Corona bitmap has a number of useful settings. For example, we can rotate a map different angles, and you can use either option. It doesn't make a big difference, but still, Corona bitmap has its advantages. So now we need to apply this map to our scene. So here in Corona settings, we have two options. We can either link our HDRI map to this single map slot, or we can use 3ds Max settings, environment tab. In this case, we need to link the map there. Let me show you. We'll switch to 3ds Max settings and press 8 on the keyboard. And here's the environment and effects menu. We drag and drop our map to the slot as an instance. All right. And so we already have some kind of lighting in our scene at the moment. We're still a long way away from what we want to achieve. But now we should set up our map either way. So once again, first I'm going to show you how to set up an HDRI map manually, and then we'll see a faster and a better way to work with HDRI maps. All right, so we can rotate our map and change its brightness, for example. And to change brightness, you should go to the Output tab and decrease output amount. And let's decrease it tenfold to 0.1. Now it's got darker. When adjusting brightness, you can just look at the sky, ignoring the rest of the scene. Let's make it 0.5. We need to find the optimal value when the sky is not too bright, and yet the scene is well illuminated. 0.5 will do fine. Sorry, 0.3. So by changing map brightness, we change brightness of light in our scene. Also, we can rotate the map around its axis. And here's the rotation parameter. We can change it to 30 degrees or to 90 degrees. And we can see the lighting change. By the way, it might not be the best map for us to use because the lighting looks overcast. So let's pick another map with sunlight and take a look. So let's go for this daylight map. As you can see, it has sunlight, so let's adjust the brightness first. So we'll change output amount to 4, and we can also rotate the map by 120 or 180 based on the effect that we want to achieve. So I hope you've learned how to manually set up an HDRI map. It's pretty easy. So still, I strongly advise you use a special script for that purpose, and you'll find a link to the script in the description to this video. The script is totally worth your money. It's called Mozo Quick Environment. And I'm going to show you how to use this script to set up lighting in just a few clicks. So by using Mozo, we can achieve the exact same lighting as in the reference. But if you don't want to buy the script, at least you know how to set up an HDRI map by yourselves now. So that's good. Either way, I very much recommend that you get yourself the script. It's really great. So what can it do? For one thing, it allows you to arrange a library of HDRI maps. And let's go ahead and see how it's done. So I'm going to show you how to manage HDRI library. We can click this icon here. If you're using the script for the first time after installation, this icon will be blank. We'll see a library of HDRI maps. This is what it looks like. To add maps here, we click Add Library. Now the script tells us that it may take some time. Fair enough. And so, say I want to add a folder with maps that aren't on the list yet. So let's go for this 3D collective. And so we clicked Select Folder. And now, with the folder added to the list, click that folder. And the script has started to generate previews. When using the script, you get a library of HDRI maps and see what they look like. You don't have to waste time going through all of these maps, especially if you don't have previews. So that's very convenient. And this is why I absolutely recommend you use the script. And, go ahead and add all of your HDRI maps to a library within the script. So while the script's generating previews, I'll pause the video, and then when I restart it, we'll continue setting up daylighting. All right. All right, so it seems like the library has loaded. All HDRI maps are listed here with previews. It's really convenient and saves you a lot of time. So that's great. Let's go ahead and proceed with the lighting. And I'm gonna use this library here, HDRI Skies Com, because I remember what maps it contains. Let's take another look at the references. We have soft light here. It's shortly after noon, I think. And we should use map 3 or something like that, where the sun is not too high up in the sky and there are some clouds, even rain clouds. We can choose a more contrasting or less contrasting sky. We'll have to try different options before we find the right one. Let's try this one. To double click on it, and it loads to this slot. Next we start interactive render to see how the map looks in our scene. There we go, the render has started, but at this point it's still far from ideal. So now let's adjust our image to fit the reference. This is the reference that I'm gonna use. This delicate sunlight here. The sun is not too bright. It has a warm shade. There's plenty of shadows. And the facades and the patio are slightly lit by the sun. It looks very much like our scene. The color of the sky is almost the same. So, alright, this is how the Mozo script works. There's the rotation option that allows us to rotate our HDRI map. This means you no longer have to go to Material Editor to edit things. You can edit everything right on this dashboard. Next, we also have exposure and gamma. Exposure determines how bright our map is. We need to increase it to make the light brighter. So let's increase exposure to 4. Right away you can see the light has become brighter. Next setting is rotation. We need to achieve a light shadow effect when the sun shines inside the patio and illuminates the facades, at least in part. So the ratio between shadow and light should be 1:1. We're going to rotate the map to 30-degree steps. This will allow us to control the process more accurately. So let's at least start with 30 degrees. The scene has turned brighter. 60 degrees. This looks pretty good already. It's better. 90. The facade is well illuminated, but the patio is shaded. 120. Oh well, that's too much. Right, so it makes no sense to rotate the map any further. Let's go back to 60 degrees. Actually, let's make it 70 to illuminate this facade better. And if I take a look at the sun in our reference, the sun is shining much brighter than in our scene. So to make sunlight in our HDRI map brighter, we need to adjust the parameter called gamma. And let me show you how it works. The default gamma setting is 1. If we decrease this value, the sun in our HDRI map will start to shine brighter. Let's see. Decrease gamma to 0.8. Now it shines brighter and the lighting looks more sort of like a bit more like in the reference. Let's bring it down to 0.7. That's too bright compared to the reference. So let's try to rotate the map back. We'll change rotation to 50 degrees. Still too bright. So let's increase rotation to 60 and increase gamma to 0.75. And that should work. Okay, now let's compare it against the reference. Sun brightness is alright, but suppose you need to add more brightness to create sharper kind of shadows. So if you need to fine-tune the sun in your scene, you can use the script to edit Corona Sun. And what makes this script great is that it can automatically position the sun relative to your HDRI map. But first we need to switch on the sun. There we go. And the sun is automatically added to your scene. As you can see, the sun is very bright. It doesn't match our HDRI map. That's why we need to adjust it. First, let's decrease intensity to 0.1 for starters. And the next setting is the size. The size of the sun determines the sharpness of shadows. And let's leave it as it is for now. And then we go ahead and click Find Align Sun in order to make the script automatically find and position the sun within the scene. After that, you might have to readjust rotation and override. Let's bring override back to 0. For some reason it changed when I try to find the sun. So from now on, when we're rotating our HDRI map, the sun will follow the map. And I think it's a great feature. It allows us to fine-tune lighting and achieve the right light shadow effect, while also benefiting from an HDRI map. So let's change rotation to 60 and also compare our scene against our references. And I think they look pretty much alike. Soft shadows, soft tree shadows, illuminated facades, and even clouds look very close to what we had in mind. So now we've done, and all of this was just a matter of a few clicks. And if I had been doing this manually, that would have taken probably about 5, maybe even 10 minutes to achieve the desired light shadow effect and set up realistic daylighting. So let's switch to another camera. Not bad, although I recommend that you set up lighting for each camera individually. And the best way to do this is to do it with the XREF feature. In our big training course, we'll learn how to use XREF, among other things. So now let's see how our scene looks with materials. Materials are already set up, so all we need to do now is to uncheck MTL override, and Karana is now loading the materials. The scene is lacking elements that we've hidden, but the main thing, base lighting, is already here. So let's switch back to the camera that we were using for lighting setup. The facades and the patio are lit. The light shadow effect is just what we needed. And you might want to do some adjustments to your lighting now that you've added materials. So this depends on your preferences and goals, for sure. I would say that the sun is kind of too bright still, so let's switch it off and only use HDRI map lighting. Now that will make the image look softer. All right, there we go. So in our next video, I'll show you how to set up beautiful and very real night lighting and also interior lighting. All right, see you in the next video.